Welcome to episode 58 of the Greedy Moshiach podcast. You asked, and we answered. Recently, we did an episode discussing Manas Friedman, a video of Rabbi Manas Friedman, where we disagreed with him on many claims that he made about Moshiach, and people asked for the sources. Where are the sources? You know, you guys are the Greedy Moshiach bros just shooting from the hip, saying stuff. How do we know that this stuff is legit? So we'd like to provide for you all the sources for all of the claims that we made during the video, and let us begin. So, claim number one. We agreed to Rabbi Manas Friedman that the Rebbe said not to spread that he is Moshiach because it will turn people away from Chassidus. That is the basis of this whole video that he made, that there is a premise that the Rebbe spoke that was for 40 years, that was the general accepted thing, that the Rebbe was against spreading that he is Moshiach, because it will be merachik people from Chassidus, and there are many sources for his claim. This indeed was the Beshita all of the years, and here's one particularly famous example from Tavshin Memhei. There was a Farbrengen, and the Rebbe spoke about a particular P'ula that was done about that the Rebbe is Moshiach, or they were singing Chayaliyah, and they were singing Chayaliyah, they know by the Farbrengen, which has the words that Chayaliyah Rebbe Moshiach Tzidkenu, which the Rebbe in general was for a while already not for that niggin. And here we go. These are the words of the Rebbe, the way it's printed in Peres Menachem Zvadios. Kana Makam Lahasker, here is the place to mention this Indian built Hadeidish something not favorable that requires fixing. When Kevin Shinim Sebes, since we find ourselves on Simchas Teira, so there's an expression, Simchas Teira Shatnish, that nothing bad will happen from this. There will be what the purpose and the fix of this matter will be, that it's going to have the desired effect. Yeshnam Spitz Chabad, there are these people who I think they're very Chassidish. They think they know what needs to be done, and how you need to act. And all those that are around them, that attempt to show them. Sometimes they're doing something that is not favorable. This matter does not help them at all. Because they think, who are these people that are able to show them? I guess nobody reaches to their level. The intent of the matter is to these as a result of their words, the Fisch, the Fisch, things that they printed, and the Geulah that they're singing, that they are causing to be distanced tens of Jews from the terror of the Baal Shem Tov, from learning Chassidus, and behavior following the ways of Chassidus. Not only that, even Jews have already begun to learn Chassidus. If they have stopped to learn as a result of the actions of these individuals. Not only is it not bringing these people close, on the contrary, even those that have already begun to become close, they are distancing them. So you're going to make it sound all holy. Does not at all change the reality that through this, they have distant Jews from the Torah of Chassidus in cult, all that goes along with that. This is all on their achrayus. You want to sing a nigun? Yes, there's a lot of nigunim. You want to speak Chassidus, to spread things of Chassidus. There's many types of things you could share from Chassidus. Follow in the path that our Rabbi Seinu have paved for us. Nobody needs your chidushim, your new things. The singular effect of them is machlikas chadash neged leVaal Shem Tov fa'adamor hazaken, a new machlikas against the Baal Shem Tov and Alter Rebbe. Rachmana litzlan. Shave, stop. V'lam chassidus, mamari avodah, l'chassidus, mamari avodah. Ve'ikar shamayim yelamed es chadamayim should teach you. Therefore, anyone who continues in this path, these things, activities, he's against, he's fighting, he's fighting against Chassidus Chabad. Against Nesidenu, Haboshamtev, Ad Malka Moshiach until Moshiach. That wants to come. Shamamti is waiting out. Moshiach is waiting until we spread Chassidus. The Iluhu Merachik, and this guy he's Merachik Chassidus. He's stopping Jews from spreading Chassidus. Then there's a missing, and it says V'hiratzen. Shall not need to repeat this warning. From now on. There will not be a breach in our walls. Anyone who's called Chabad, these four any place in the world, Hashem is the boss over the entire world. This is the will of Moshiach Tzkeinu, and Nasi Dedenu is what to spread these well springs forth to the entire world. Vadai certainly, because there will be no lasting imprints from any of this. The fix of the matter are the through strengthening in the activities of spreading Chassidus. So you see, when people who are saying, "Oh, how could you say Yechi? How could you do all these things? How could you talk about the Rebbe Moshiach?" They're not coming from nowhere. This was indeed the policy all the years. The Rebbe says, "Follow out the path set by Nesidenu." So our rejoinder in the episode was that this was until the Rebbe told us that we have finished the job of spreading Chassidus. We have accomplished what needed to be accomplished. We should have pulled the source for that. Yutas Kislev, I believe it's Yutas Kislev Tavshin Non Aleph, and again Tavshin and Beis. The Rebbe speaks about it. The Rebbe gave it a Tanya to signify that the Kuf Tzadik Beis Shana that we have completed, that Kabetz, we have collected all the sparks, and we have finished this idea that we're waiting for the finished Afatzim Yal's Chutzah. It's completed in its entirety. And we're no longer waiting for. That's no longer the Avodah. And we'll see soon in Chaisara, Tavshin and Beis, that makes it clear that one Avodah finished and a new Avodah has begun. So things are different. And the obvious proof that we'll get to later is the Rebbe himself encouraging the singing of Yechi. So obviously, it's no longer something that we're concerned. If the Rebbe is so concerned that we should follow the path of the Rebbeim, then we're still following the path of the Rebbeim by singing Yechi. And if the Rebbe is so concerned that it be Melech people from Chassidus and it's fighting a war against the Baal, then he should not be. If it's such a grave thing, then no excuses about how the Rebbe was just singing along or whatever would be good enough to justify making a war against the Baal and the Rebbeim to encourage the singing of Yechi. Obviously, things are different.
I don't know if we'll get into a conversation over here because there are many claims that we have to make. But yeah, just the notion that something is merachik or something like that, it's for the Rebbe to decide. It's the Rebbe's decision, so to speak. It's the Rebbe's purview. The Rebbe knows what's going on. The Rebbe knows what still needs to be done and what doesn't need to be done. And there are times where the Rebbe does tell us clearly, this is what we need to do, and anything else, anything that damages that specific thing that we need to do, so therefore you shouldn't do those things. And then the Rebbe can also tell you at times where we have completed something and that's no longer a thing, a goal that we need to accomplish, being that we've already accomplished that goal. And like we'll see inside. So the claim 2, the second claim that we have is that the goal is no longer just to spread Chassidus. And the source for that is Chayei Sarah Tavshin and Beis, where the Rebbe is talking to all the Shluchim, the Le'eis Ata. As of this moment, that's the last time that the Rebbe spoke to all the Shluchim, Le'ein Kol, in front of everybody's eyes in a way that everybody could see. And the Rebbe starts that Simcha by, saying that this Simcha, this Farbrengen, is how we are learning about what the what's the words that you use, the marching orders of Shlichus. So we'll look at it inside. Chayei Sarah Tavshinun Beis.
Again, we're not going to go through the whole Sikha of everything, but bits and pieces. This is going to be a reading inside episode, so bear with us here if this is a topic that interests you.
It will be posted, like the links and the text is going to be on the screen. It's going to be also linked in the description. But
if you're watching this, then you'll already see that it's on the screen, I guess.
Correct. If you're listening to this, then you could listen to us read it. But this is something this is a podcast that is just for the sources. We'll list all the sources in the description. But again, it's very important that when you make a claim that it's sourced, you have to understand that things that we say are not just coming out of nowhere. They're sourced in specifically the Rebbe's Shlichus. Also, that's something that also we have to make a disclaimer, is that we have to agree to first principles, and the first principle is that the Rebbe's words is Halach l'Moshe Sinai. It is for us Torah l'Moshe Sinai, and it's very, very
we need
important.
no more proof than that. Like, you can't say, but it says in the Rashba that, like, if the Rebbe said it, then that's good enough for us. That's the final say. Okay, go.
Okay, so we're starting from Seif Yud Beis. In dem alem kum zu nach mer b'dereinu zeh b'miyuchad. And all of this that we're saying, that we've been explaining, comes even more especially in our generation. In welchen says zugekommen, in that we've reached a chidush in dem inyan hashlichus. We've reached a novelty in the idea, the concept of shlichus. As kvoid kedushas ma'echad mer nesidereinu hat memane gewen jeder Yidin von dem der zu sein seiner Shliach in Afotzes HaTorah v'Yadus and Afotzes HaMayanos Chutza, that the Frierdiker Rebbe, the Nasi Hadar, appointed every single Jew in this generation to be a Shliach in spreading Torah, Judaism, and spreading Chassidus. Biz to bring in the Geulah HaMitzvah Shlema, the goal of spreading all of these three things is to bring the Geulah HaMitzvah Shlema.
So now we have a working definition of what Shlichus was in Dar Shvi. It's to spread Torah, Chassidus, and Judaism until you bring the Geulah. And that's why you go back and it was so important to not stop the spreading of Chassidus, because that's how you're going to bring the Geulah.
Right. Okay. Der Fun is verstandig. So
we're jumping a bit here. The Sifid Gimel, I think.
Yeah, this is in the middle of Sifid Gimel. So therefore it's understood. As wie bald die Shluchim halten schon von lang nach Mile hascholas Avodas Shlichus von Afotzes HaTorah Hayadus ve'Afotzes HaMayanos Chutza, that since the Shluchim are already for a long time after the beginning, starting the beginning of the Avodas HaShlichus, which is spreading Torah, Judaism, and Chassidus, und von lang nach Emza Avodas HaShlichus, and already long after the middle of the Avodah of Shlichus, which is spreading Torah, Judaism, and Chassidus, biz as mehat shoin mesayim gewen die Shlichus, to the point that we've already fulfilled, we finished the Shlichus, Geulah and Siderenu Anal, like the notification of the Nasi Hadar, previously mentioned, the Afal Pikain, and nevertheless is the Geulah HaMitzvah Shlema noch nit gekommen bepoil mamish, it has not come literally. Darf man sagen, as is noch geblieben etwas zu tun, was wird bringen die Geulah bepoil. We have to say that there is something left, something else that we have to do to bring the Geulah in a literal, practical way.
So what's not needed is more spreading Torah, Chassidus, and Judaism, because that will earn the Geulah. That we Rebbe is informing us that we finished. Something okay. So that's already a major. That's already the claim.
Correct.
Something else.
That's the claim, right? Yeah. So now what is that? Und das is al pi hayidua, and this is according to what it's known, based on what it's known, that b'chol davar Yehuda in every generation there is a descendant of Yehuda who is fitting to be Moshiach Yisrael, the savior of the Jews. Someone in his righteousness is fitting to be the redeemer. And when the time comes, this is from the Chassam Sefer, I believe. Also the Barbanel. And when the time comes, Hashem will reveal himself to him and send him as Moshiach. And according to the notification of the Nasi Hadar, the only Shliach in the generation, the only Mashiach, the one Mashiach in our generation, as that we've already finished everything.
By the way, here you see the Rebbe again talking about pointing out who is Moshiach. For those who are concerned, that precedent from the Rebbe, like we mentioned before. Yeah.
Is verstandig, it's understood, as the Häupt sich an Mekuyim während der Shlach Nabiat Tishlach, that he was already beginning to fulfill the Shlach Nabiat Tishlach, which is the Shlichus Fun Chak Mayach Admor, the Shlichus of Moshiach. And the Rebbe is identifying the Shlichus not only of Moshiach in general, the great Moshiach, but of the specific person of the Rebbe.
So that's going to come up later, that like, it's not right that you're saying it's not just the Moshiach Shabadar. He's saying this Moshiach Shabadar is in fact becoming the actual.
He's starting the shlichus of Shlach Nabiat Tishlach.
Meaning he's going to be the one that talks about in the Torah that all the Nevi'im are talking about. He's going to be the actual Moshiach. His shlichus take us out of Galus.
Und der Fun is muvan. So therefore it's understood. What do we still need to do? As the einzige Zach, was is itzter geblieben in der Avodah Shlichus, the one thing that now is left in the Avodah of Shlichus is to mekabel sein pnei Mashiach tzidkenu bepoyel mamish, to receive, to accept, to greet Mashiach, the face of Mashiach, in a literal way. B'chdei soll kennen mekayim sein Shlichusoi bepoyel und reis nehmen alle Yidden von Galus, in order so that he can fulfill his shlichus in a practical way, in a literal way, and take the Yidden, all the Yidden, out of Galus. And that's the Rebbe saying that this is the shlichus. And moving on, skipping towards Seif Yodalid. So now what is the practical lesson? Was mit darf reis nehmen ständig itzter bei der Haschala Psyche von dem Kinnes HaShluchim, the lesson that we have to take standing at the beginning and the opening of the Kinnes HaShluchim. L'chol reish, first and foremost, darf man reis kommen mit der Achraze ve'oida to alle Shluchim. You have to go out with a memo, a notification, to a publicization, a declaration to all the Shluchim, as the Avodas HaShlichas itzter und von jeder Yidin the Avodas HaShlichas now, and for every single Jew, meaning not only the people that are living their lives as Shluchim, but every single Jew, bashtetn dem as mizom mekabel sein pnei Mashiach tzidkenu, is in this. Yeah.
So we're at that they should greet Mashiach. So whereas before the Shlichus was defined as spread, the Shlichus was just spread Terechas in Judaism, and that will bring the Geulah. Now the Shlichus is defined as greeting Mashiach.
Right.
Continue.
Das heißt, so what does that mean? That means alle pratim in der Avodas HaShlichus von Hafotzes HaTorah v'Yadus v'Hafotzes HaMayanis Chutza, all of these details, everything that you've been doing in Avodas HaShlichus, which is
still the Shlichus, he's saying.
Correct.
You're still
spreading
doing those activities.
Judaism and Chassidus darf sein durchgenommen mit der Nekuda, have to be completely infused with this point. Wie das führt zu Kabbalas pnei Mashiach tzidkenu, how it leads you to greeting Mashiach.
So that's the key change, that now it's about doing, you're still obviously spreading Chassidus and Judaism, and but you're doing it to greet Moshiach. There's one more point we didn't clip here, but the Rebbe says in the same Simcha that this is Shaykh, this is related to every single Jew without exception, because this is the Shlichus of our time. So you can't say, oh, but for my community, I could just spread Chassidus, and it's not for me. I'm not going to be able to get them on board with this Moshiach is here. We have to greet him. This whole thing is not for him. The Rebbe says, no, it's your job to make it happen.
Right, and this is
and
this is why it's important that to know that this idea, this concept of merachik people and all these things, it's important because what's important to know really is what the Rebbe wants from you. What's the shlichus? When the Rebbe says, when the Rebbe comes out with a mivtza, that's what you should be doing. You should be going out and putting on tefillin on Yidden. You should be going out in the street, finding a Jew to put on tefillin. That was the job of that time when the Rebbe says to do mivtza tefillin. Okay? This idea of being merachik is not really something that you have to think about. What you do have to think about is practically, meaning very, very practically, the Rebbe tells me to put on tefillin on Jews. What's the best way to do that in a way that I'm not going to scare this person off? I'm not going to go and and tell a Jew, grab him by the arms and start putting on tefillin. Obviously, you're going to do it in a nice way because that is the foundation, right? Like the lahavdil, not lahavdil, but the golden rule is man desani Allah, that don't do to others what you don't like being done to yourself. Everything else is the explanation to that rule. So obviously, you're going to do it in a way that is inviting, in a way that you're going to succeed in the mivtza or in the call of the hour of what the Rebbe says. So this notion of, oh yeah, you shouldn't go around and screaming Yechi and waving flags and walk into a random shul and do that, that has nothing to do with a claim of you're going to be merachek. That has to do with just a very basic, pragmatic, do it in a normal way, in a way that's
tactful,
you're going to
do
be
it
successful.
like a man, find a way to do it correct. At the very least, we have here is it's more than the regular Shprani Chassidus. We've progressed in the Shlichus to something that has to do with greeting Moshiach, and everything you're doing is infused with that. Whether that means greeting Moshiach the person, or whether Rebbe clearly is saying that there is a Moshiach the person, or whether your Chabad house in particular is not ready to accept that the Rebbe is Moshiach, but they still will just know there's Moshiach is here, he's ready, he's on the scene, whoever he is, he's ready to take us out of Galus, and we're doing mitzvahs now to greet Moshiach. That would also be in line, b'chlalos, with this general idea that you should know that Moshiach is here. We're greeting him. He's taking us out of Galus. Let's do everything we're doing is to get ourselves ready, and he should be able to do a Shlichus and take us out of Galus. It's a different vibe. We're moving onwards.
Okay. Our next claim is...
It is false that we, the Chassidim, were the ones who claimed that the Rebbe is Moshiach, while he himself consistently protests. Right? Rambam said that the Rebbe, he was making the premise that the Rebbe consistently was protesting the notion that that he's Moshiach, and we, the Chassidim, were the ones who foisted it on the Rebbe, and we invented it and made it up and pushed it in his face. Okay, so let's see. We have here some... okay. Here is one from Tazrim and Sarah Tafshin and Aleph. The Rebbe says, Moshiach nimtza b'zman u'makam Galus. Moshiach is in the time and place of Galus. And he's in the matzav of Galus, and he's in a situation of Galus. He bears the pains of Galus. Like the Gemara continues there, Ida Amarav, Imen Chayahu, if Mashiach is from the living, Kagain Rabbeinu Kadosh will be like Rabbeinu HaKadosh. If Mashiach Mason Shechayim Achshi is ones that are alive today, Vadai Hain Rebbe, because it is certainly Rabbeinu HaKadosh. Just to save all Tachluim, because he bears these pains, the Chassid Gomer having his complete Chassid. Umatzapin is waiting B'kaytzer Ruach with bated breath, B'chili and I with longing eyes, Las Galus, pining eyes for the revelation. Mehelam Bezman Matzah Galus, from the concealment and the time and place of Galus. The Melech HaMoshiach Galus Yisrael, Melech HaMoshiach will redeem the Jewish people. The Geulah is our Shlei Mashiach Galus, from this last exile, from which there will be no more exile afterwards. That the Melech will stand up. Okay, and then the Rebbe continues. So Sham, and there in the beginning of that sugya, the Beis Shilei Amar, the Beis Shilei says Shilei Shemai, that Shilei is the name of Mashiach. Then it says Ask Yahweh Shilei, until Shilei will come. The Bei Yanai, to bring a pasuk as a proof that the Rebbe is Moshiach. The Bei Yanai says, Yinai Shema, his name is Yinai. K'mo Yanai, which is similar to Yanai. Everyone would say after their own name. And the Rebbe has their ha'ara from Rashi, Perish Rashi Sham, it was the teachers who would actually be the ones that would make the drasha themselves. Not that the students would invent it. Indeed, that the students were the one. The teacher, indeed, the students didn't force it on their teacher. The teacher was the one who initiated and actually was the one saying these drashas, and then the student said it. I guess. Shnemer says Yehi Shmei La'olim Lifnei Shemesh Yinin Shmei. The Rebbe Chanina Amar Chanina Shmei. Chanina is his name. It says Shaloi Eten Lachem Chanina. The Yeshem. Some say Menachem Bechezkas Shmei. Menachem Bechezkas is his name. Like it says Kirachik Meni Menachem Mishul Nafshi. And then the Rebbe continues. Va'anan Chassidim, we Chassidim Nani Abasrai, we follow the same way. When it comes to our Rebbeim. So in general, we hold by our Rebbeim that they're Moshiach, meaning they'll be the ones they're the ones who the potential Moshiach of their time. And specifically, we say it about the Nasi, our Nasi, the Friedrich Rebbe. Yosef Shmei, his name is Yosef Shnema Yosef Ad Neshen is Yodev Asaf Nidchi Yisrael, and Yitzchak Shmei, like it says, Oz Yimolos Chayk Pinu. So it's interesting that Rebbe just says that we have to that we Chassidim should do the same about our Rebbeim and say that they're Moshiach. And the Rebbe brings the Psukim, and the Rebbe says that the teacher was the one who said it about himself, where literally one line before, the Rebbe says that that and even in the Ha'ara there, the Rebbe has a little drasha about exactly what his name was, Menachem Mechizkiah, etc. So that's already very interesting. The Rebbe basically initiating this idea that we should say about the Nasi Adar that he's Moshiach. Then we have another source in Iyar of Tavshin and Aleph around the same time. Just the David Nachshon and his cohorts were collecting signatures that the Rebbe is Moshiach. That people accepted upon themselves the kingship of the Rebbe as Moshiach. And they collected 250 signatures. And they gave it into the Rebbe. And the Rebbe responded with the following the Rebbe responded with an answer to it's a minor klali, a number of things. The Rebbe gave this answer to them all. And this was included. This was one of the things the Rebbe was responding to. The skabel was received at tach and the chuas chein, meaning it's like a proper pleasure. Thank you. But the pu'ula and mshechas, it should be a continuing pu'ul. You should continue doing this. By Yisaf and even more. Basman grama, and the time is correct for this. Kinesinas kayach, Kinesinas kayach, the chazal of the sages of Bechezkas and their bracha, the Chalamaisa, Besifenlei, that whoever adds, you should add even more. Whoever adds, we add to him, we help him out. In particular, the bracha of Hashem, that his extra that Hashem adds is even more than the original thing. Time is ripe. Coming from Chedesh Nisan, and from its influence, we're going into the month of Iyar, Rosh Tevis, Ha'aves v'Rachel, regular Dala, that Rosh Tevis Iyar is Avram, Yaakov, and Rachel. Kamafurish become is explained in many places. B'Shnas, Heyete Shnas in the Fleis, Adenu, Fleis, Atzkal Tzion. So here you had Chassidim who literally wrote the Ksavis Kashrus accepting the Rebbe as Melech HaMoshiach, and the Rebbe is giving them encouragement, and the Rebbe is not telling them to be quiet and you're fighting against the Rebbeim and why you're talking about this. The Rebbe is at least personally telling to these people doing it that this is good and you should collect and do it even more. Like, this is a good activity to continue. Now, next we have some from Tavshin and Beis, a bunch of answers about the Neshech Chabad conventions that were going on then. So for Chedesh Tevis Tavshin and Beis, it was a chlot of the Neshech Chabad in Crown Heights they made a kinos in 770. It said Sudas Kabbalas Panim Moshiach Tzekena. That was the title of their event. Like a little Kabbalas Panim. And they spoke about Shapulas and about the Geulah. And Rebbe responded, ask al Tzion, was man grama van yonim v'yehei ba'atzlach Rebbe to ask al Tzion. I'll mention it by the grave of the Friedrich Rebbe, and the time is correct, is right, and the time and the yonim are correct, and it should be ba'atzlach Rebbe. I believe by this event they spoke about the Rebbe being Moshiach. That was the
it was headlined, yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't like in general Moshiach. It was greeting the Rebbe as Moshiach, and this was the Rebbe's response. So
the Neshech Chabad of London,
in the winter of Tavshin and Beis, around the same time of Chedesh Tevis, the Neshech Chabad in London, they sent in the doch of their pulas with regards to Moshiach, and the Rebbe responded. The skabel was received. Amatzorov Bazar attached, which was attached to it, which was chein, and it was very brought me pleasure. Thank you. We have a tzlach Rabbi should be with great success. Ubetach, and certainly, Oim Deis Bekesher im Neshech Chabad. You are in touch with Neshech Chabad in Crown Heights. Ladas to know al dvarcha gigasan about their regarding their event that they had. Kan l'chayna that recently had here Askal Tzin, meaning Neshech Chabad in Crown Heights make a whole party celebrating the Rebbe's Moshiach. That's the whole event. Greet Moshiach, and the Rebbe writes to Neshech Chabad in London. By the way, certainly be in touch about how they conducted their party here.
I did the same thing. Doing some research into this specific story, it seemed that the Neshech Chabad of London were only planning on keeping it about the general Mashiach and Geulah. And the Neshei Chabad and Karnites, they made it very specific about the Rebbe. So when the Rebbe was saying that be in touch with the Neshei Chabad of here, the Rebbe was basically make it more specific. The Rebbe didn't say that, but that was the differentiation between the Neshei Chabad of London. What they were going to do was going to keep it just about, in general, Moshiach and Geulah.
Then the last thing we have on Neshei Chabad, there is in the winter of Tarshan Beis, there was different opinions in the Neshei Chabad Yerushalayim with regards to the teichen of what one of the kinnusim, how should it be? Whether they should include who's Moshiach in the. There are those who said, yeah, we have to talk about that Rebbe's Moshiach, and some said not. And they basically, both people wrote in their side to the Rebbe kind of, and both sides said their piece. And I think the Rebbe Groner gave in both, he gave them both to the Rebbe together. And in response to the ones who said that they should, the Rebbe said, we have a short time in Slachas Haskell Tzion. That was the one that Rebbe responded to. That side of this.
I get a phone call from Neshei Chabad Yerushalayim, and there are two women on the phone. They said we had over here a very difficult discussion whether we are allowed to go out and encourage people to chasmen, to sign that the Rebbe is Melech HaMoshiach. Some say, being that the Rebbe speaks both mouth, we have to do it. And some say, being that the Rebbe said that if you're going to push this concept that's going to draw people away from Chassidus, we don't think it's a proper thing. We want to know what to do. So I told them each one write a letter to the Rebbe, fax it into me, and I'll take in the two letters to the Rebbe. When the faxes came, I told the Rebbe that these are two letters from two divisions of the Neshei Chabad about the same subject. The Rebbe takes the first letter, he gave one letter, and that letter was a letter that people said they felt that in order to bring Mashiach closer, we have to get that more people should believe that the Rebbe is Mashiach. And they wrote that whole thing, and they're asking the Rebbe what to do. The Rebbe turned over the page, and he wrote, Yehi b'hatzlocha v'asker al tzin. Then the Rebbe picked up the second letter, where they wrote that it could be as a result of this, people will say, well, from Chassidus. The Rebbe said, Vu the rest of, here's the first letter. So the Rebbe had both letters on the table. The letter which he read first, and he wrote, Yehi b'hatzlocha v'asker al tzin, it says, this answer you should give over. And the second letter, where they wrote, but hesitant about it, says, put this into my pekel v'luchnam afanoil. So if you want to interpret that as klaro verta, that the Rebbe was masking to say about him as Melech HaMoshiach in both areas. This is what he told Rabbi Bernhard. Be'efhan Maskabel, it's okay. And over here was very clear that those people that said they want to go around the side of the Rebbe HaMoshiach, the Rebbe Hibatzlocha.
Yeah, the next source we brought here is the Rebbe encouraging the singing of Yechi and Shlichus Kislev Tavshin and Gimel, and this, beyond any shadow of a doubt, shows the policy of Chabad Lubavitch over here. the Rebbe is encouraging Yechi, if there could be any doubt if this is Merachik people or not Merachik people, because he could say maybe these other things were private. Here, the Rebbe is publicly in 770 in front of everybody. Everyone knew this was going on, and this didn't happen once, it didn't happen twice. Here is a particularly that was particularly involved, but this was going on for all the Chassidim Yechi, and the Rebbe sometimes approving a little bit, sometimes a lot, but clearly the Rebbe is promoting, he is okay with, and even encouraging the Chassidim identifying him publicly as Moshiach. So that ship has sailed. This, that you could be concerned that you're fighting against the Rebbeim by talking about the Rebbe being Moshiach and you're being Merachik people from Chassidus. That ship has sailed so far on the horizon you can't even see it anymore. And the only people who are being Merachik are people who are continue to claim that you're being Merachik people, and therefore you pretend like Chabad policy is that we should not talk about it, and that makes people think that the other people who are talking about it are crazy people who are not following the actual Chabad Shita. You are the ones being Merachik people from Chassidus by doing that. Because if you would have a united front, this is my opinion, if you would have a united front, just to clarify, if you have a united front and everyone say together that, no, this is Chabad Shita, this is what we hold, this is what the Rebbe said, people would much easier be much easier to receive it, to accept it, and say, yeah, okay, this is the Chabad Shita. So by being scared of your own shadow, you're actually, like so many other things, you're not helping. But that's my opinion. But yeah.
See that there is this notion that if the Rebbe doesn't want people to sing Yechi, the Rebbe stopped the niggin. So we see that the Rebbe obviously...
He was perfectly capable of expressing his pleasure or displeasure what was going on. This and I refuse to even respond to notions of other things, other explanations about what was going on then, that disrespect the Rebbe and what a tzaddik is and holiness and all of that. They're not even worth responding to. People who make those claims. But as previously established, we accept what the Rebbe does. Like the Rebbe says, even Tashim Hey, the path that was paved by a Rebbeim, and the times changed. Yechi should really answer all of the questions, and there shouldn't even be any need to say anything else.
Okay, so moving on to our next claim.
Yeah. This idea of the whole idea of a king we mentioned, it comes from the people. It makes sense. He was saying, how could you we tell the Rebbe that he should be Moshiach? You can't compare that to Tashi and Aleph Yud Shvat when they told the Rebbe to be Rebbe. So just a concept in general, just brought a sort of it could be mentioned all over the place. Here's the Kudatei for Shmini Atzeres. It says, V'yezel b'yem Shmini Atzeres, Shalach z'am yivarach v'as HaMelech, ki ein melech b'lei am. There's no king without a people. That's just one source, but it says it's a commonly said phrase all over Chassidus. There's no king without a people. You need the people to support the king. This makes sense. It makes sense. It doesn't prove anything. It just adds to the concept of why would it be that the people should tell the king to be king. The king doesn't announce that he's a king. That's a dictator. The people ask him to be king. That's why this Ksavas Kashrus and all that we mentioned before, it makes sense. And we also brought from Mishpatim Tavshin and Aleph. The Rebbe says, the minay from David Malka Mashiach is doch shein gewen. The appointment of David, King Moshiach, has already happened. As it says, I found David, my servant, he's anointed with holy oil. I anointed him. So it's not up to the people that I was saying to decide who Moshiach is. David Melech already writes and tell him that Hashem has chosen who Moshiach is. We don't get to decide whoever we find to be the nicest Moshiach, he's the one who's Moshiach. No. The Eibishter appoints him, and this is already decided basically thousands of years ago. That Hashem chose already. It's going to be from David HaMelech, it's going to be his descendant, it's decided. So what is up to us? As Darfner Zayin, Kabbalas Malchus Sayedei Ha'am. The people need to receive his kingship. Und die Iskashers zwischen the Melech mit the Am, and the connection between the king and his people, B'Shleimus Agili in the full way, Begeulah Mitzvah Shlema, that will happen in the full way, Begeulah Mitzvah Shlema. Meaning it's up to the people to. So when we find out from a tzaddik, from whatever it is, from looking at the Rambam, who Moshiach is, it becomes our job, that Rebbe is saying, even before Moshiach comes, to connect with him, and it will be in the full connection that Rebbe says after the Geulah Mitzvah Shlema. I just actually realized that now. The Rebbe is implying that before there's also a connection. The Skashus division, the Melech and the Am, B'Shlemus Geulah will be lost Lavi. But first, the Rebbe is saying you should be Kabbalas Malchus the Am. It does sound like here that Rebbe is saying there should be Kabbalas Malchus the Am before you have the Shlemus of the Geulah Mitzvah Shlema. Interesting.
Right, and this is, for me personally, this is how I understand what Kabbalah's Pnei Mashiach Tzidkenu looks like. It looks like we are stepping in as the role in our role of as the nation of giving that ability of being right. That's the one thing that that Mashiach needs to be able to take us out of Galus, to be able to complete his Shlichus, is that Kabbalas HaMalchus is the people.
That's what you have in Chaisar, right? The Rebbe is saying his Shlichus can be fulfilled, but we need to help him do his Shlichus. Okay. The next claim was, he said a story of the Mittler Rebbe, Rabbi Friedman, that I'm not sure how it was involved, but he mentioned the story of the Mittler Rebbe's Chassidim. That they didn't even need Moshiach. Everything was so good. They had so much Chassidus. Everything was so fantastic. They didn't need Moshiach. I'm not sure if he was saying that's a correct way to live or not. We just wanted to settle the score that is not the way that Rebbe taught us to think about things, and the most clear place where I think where the Rebbe talks about that is Va'ata the Tzava, the last Marmah that Rebbe gave out.
Yeah, the Ainin who this that the Yidden are broken, the fact that they're in exile, even when it seems physically and spiritually there is an abundance, is the true desire for every single Jew is that there should be a revelation of godliness. This idea of revealing godliness should affect the essence of a person. And therefore, this that in the time of exile, the revelation of godliness does not shine as it did in the time of the Beis HaMikdash. Specifically, when a person meditates on the fact that our rabbis had said that whoever, as long as the Beis HaMikdash is not built in his days, it's as if it is destroyed in his days. In this itself, he is completely and utterly shaken up. He was broken.
He's crushed.
Even when he is in a very exalted level, that in the godly revelation is shining in him, as it was in the time of the Beis Hamikdash.
So this will be addressing the time of the Mittler Rebbe, where you say, what if it's somewhere where there's a lot of godliness, where everything is so amazing, it's fantastic, big tzaddikim, so why should they be crushed?
The fact that in the world, in the general world, not themselves and not their immediate location, but in the outside, there's not such a revelation. Muchach, it's proven shegama gili shemer etzli gili mugbal. The revelation that he has and that is being revealed to him is also limited. And that is why we have this idea of crushed, of being kassis, that there's no complete revelation in the entire world. And the Rebbe continues amazing things, and I highly suggest that every single person learn the Maimer of Ve'ata Tetzava many, many times, because it gives you the proper perspective that even in a time and a place where everything seems to be good, everything is nice and dandy, and even according to us, that we say the time of the redemption has arrived and the redemption is unfolding in front of our eyes, we still cannot be complacent. We have to be in ganze Zutreselt. We have to be completely shaken from the fact that it's not completely here, it is not ultimately here, and that is why we have to continue doing what we're doing, spreading the message, learning in Geulah Moshiach from today to tomorrow, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, okay. The next claim was, we said that our generation is different than all the previous generations that you had in times of the Gemara, where this one said, "Oh, my Rebbe is Moshiach," and he said, "My Rebbe is Moshiach." Each one obviously was talking about their particular time period, but none of them were saying that he's the actual Moshiach. They were just saying that he is the one who's fit in our times. He has the potential to be Moshiach because he's the righteous one of his generation. He's the Mashiach Shabbatar. So we're claiming that no, our generation is different. The Mashiach Shabbatar of our generation, he is the actual Mashiach. So. Firstly, what we just had before, where the Rebbe just straight up says that the only Mashiach of our time is the one who was actually, the Friedrich Rebbe, the Nasi Adar is the one who was actually given the mission by Hashem to take us out of Galus. So, I mean, the Rebbe just says straight up that he's actually Mashiach. He's the legitimate Mashiach. But just about this particular claim that our generation is different, so here's one source. It's a phrase that Rebbe said many times, that the Dar Achan Shal Galus, our generation is the last generation of Galus, and the first generation of Geulah. This particular quote is from Bahaloischa Tafshin Aleph. The Rebbe says, and all this, we have an even more, it's even more stressed in these last generations. The Ikvasa of the Mashiach, and the heels of the Mashiach, but particularly our generation. That our generation is the last generation of exile. Dafka, specifically the heel of the foot, their in the very last generation, the power to, like it says, the flame should be lit by itself. When to uplift all the generations before it, through this was their from Galus, this last generation of Galus, Geulah will be the first generation of the Geulah. The Geulah for all Yidden, the Geulah for all Jews, B'meshech kol hadeiros. But then it makes it clear that our generation will be the last generation of Galus, and unless you think this is a Hiratzon or one-off, it's not. That I've repeated this many, many times, and the main thing is that this was also the Basel Gani. The Rebbe said this in the very first member of his Nasias. This is consistent. The Rebbe started off. This was the mission statement that our generation will be the last one, the one who will actually bring the Geulah. And we have it here.
It's interesting that after the Rebbe said Basel Gani Tafshin Aleph, I forgot who it was. Someone said, "Oh, he thinks he's Moshiach" or something like that.
The Briskerov, I think.
Yeah. Okay, there you go.
This is demanded from each and every one of us. The Shvi, the Chol Shvi and all sevenths are cherished. Even though that we are Dar Shvi, who loy al pi b'chidasenu is not according to our choice, but loy al yedei avitenu it is not through our work. Ubekama inyanim, and in many things, efshir shaloik if it is possible that this is not according to our desire. Mikol Malka, nevertheless, Nikola Shvi, even all sevenths are cherished. Shudim tzayim anachnu b'ikvasa the Mashiach, we find ourselves in the ikvasa the Mashiach. The end of the Ikvasa. The Avodah, and the job, the mission, Ligmed Hamshachas Shechina, to draw down, to complete the drawing down of the Shechina. This job that's been given, it's our job to complete it. V'leirak Shechina, not only the Shechina came, Ikar Shechina, the main Shechina, Ubetachtem Dak, bring it down here in this world. And it's just remember that Rebbe was talking about the 7 generations that culminated with Moshe Rabbeinu, that he was the 7th, and he was chosen, he was the one that actually brought down the Shekhinah by Mount Torah. That Rebbe says so too. Our generation that he is beginning now, that is the 7th generation, his generation is going to be the one who is tasked. We are the end of the Ikvasa, and we're going to be the ones to actually bring the Shekhinah down here in this world fully. We're completing this job. Yeah. So there you go. So there's not going to be another generation and another Rebbe. All this talk of, okay, well, he tried, it didn't work, we're going to move on. This is the Rebbe told. This is the end. We're going. It's not even all or nothing. It's just
right.
all.
There's nothing. Right. There's nothing. There's nothing after this yet. Okay. The next claim is the Rebbe said that he is the actual Mashiach, not just the Mashiach of the generation. And we gave an example of when it says. That Mashiach stands on the roof of the Beis Hamikdash.
Okay, let's start with that. Yeah.
Yeah. So we have in Chayesara Tafshin and Aleph, towards the end, I forgot exactly what's if. Oh, it's the end. That Mashiach Oimed al Gag Beis HaMikdash. The Rebbe says that Moshiach, quoting the Yalkut Shemaini, V'hu mashmi'a lehem leYisrael v'oimer anavim is giazman golaschem. He stands on the Beis HaMikdash and he says, he calls out to the Yidden and he says, "My humble ones, the time of your redemption has arrived." In the footnote, the Rebbe says, "Lehoyer mediyuk lashon ha'midrash." The Rebbe brings to the lashon of the midrash, "Oimed al Gag Beis HaMikdash," that he stands on the roof of the Beis HaMikdash, shegagan le'niskachu, that the roofs have not been sanctified as Eretz Yisrael. The Yeshleimar shebezeh mirumaz. This is hinting to the hachraza, to the announcement of anavim yigiazman golaschem ba'a michutz la'aretz. It comes from outside of Eretz Yisrael. Shalei niskacha b'ktushas Eretz Yisrael. B'dugmas hachilik shemin gag beis hamikdash la'ateichud b'mikdash atzmai. And the Rebbe finishes off that paragraph, the way it has been announced, and we've been announcing specifically in the recent times.
So that's the kicker. I'm saying it is this is happening. It's being announced.
Right.
The Moshiach is the one doing the announcing. I'm saying it's being announced.
Where is it being announced?
It's being announced in 770. That is the fulfillment of this medrash. So,
so there you have an example of where the Rebbe is saying that it's not that the Rebbe is saying, oh, you know, if Mashiach is coming now, I'm the person that is most fit to be Mashiach. Rather, the Rebbe is saying pretty clearly that these things are being fulfilled, and obviously they're being fulfilled by the Rebbe. And these diukim are basically saying it's happening, and it's happening outside of Eretz Yisrael in 770.
A number of other sources for this idea was what we mentioned, Bechezkas and Beis, that the Rebbe says there that Mashiach is already revealed, and it's clear there that we mentioned that he's talking about. He says that Mashiach was already given the job, take Yidden out of Galus. It's begun to be fulfilled. The Shlach Nabiyat Shlach. So he's talking there about the actual final mission of the Geulah, not just potential Mashiach. And in the week before Vayera, the Rebbe says that there's an actual Mashiach, not just a Mashiach inside of every single Jew, but there's the final boss Mashiach. And the Rebbe says that he is revealed. He's Bezgali. There's always the Metzias of Mashiach. There's the potential Mashiach in every generation. There's the Metzias that he exists. And the Rebbe says in our generation he's finally been revealed. That was in Vayera. I don't have the text that in front of me. And there's also Mishpatim, which I also don't have the text of in front of me. Maybe in post we'll put it on the screen. In Mishpatim Tafshin and Beis, where the Rebbe... Actually, no, Mishpatim I do have, actually. So Mishpatim, the Rebbe spoke how Melech HaMoshiach is fulfilling. There are prophecies that say Mashiach was going to do things. He's going to turn the swords into plowshares. And the Rebbe says this, that we see on the world stage, that things like this are happening, is the P'ula of Mashiach. Mashiach is the one doing it. Meaning these prophecies are not going to be fulfilled by potential Mashiach. They're the ones they're going to be fulfilled by the actual Mashiach, and the Rebbe is saying that these prophecies are being fulfilled. Okay, so this is Mishpat and Tavshin and Beis. And to add,
1 second. This is we'll connect it to the next claim of that we can't say Melech HaMoshiach, only your Mashiach. That I think Rabbi Manis Friedman said something to that effect, that you can't say that the Rebbe is Melech HaMoshiach, rather the Rebbe is Mashiach Shebedoir. This Rabbi Manis Friedman.
This answers that as well.
Right. This claim Rabbi Manis Friedman has made multiple times. Right. That Mashiach, the Rebbe saying that the Rebbe is Mashiach, you could say that the Rebbe is Mashiach Shebedoir, but you can't say the Rebbe is Melech HaMoshiach. There's no place. There's no. Precedent. Yeah.
So the Rebbe says, "Lahaisef," to add She'enin Zeh, this idea we're talking about, that they'll beat the swords into plowshares. She'enin Zeh ya'ayidei pu'ulase shel Melech HaMashiach. This will be through the effect, the deeds of Melech HaMashiach himself. As it says in the beginning of the pasuk, "V'shavat bein he Mashiach v'shavat bein hagoyim," he'll judge between the nations. V'chiach l'amim rabim, and he will rebuke the many nations. And who's the Shevet, says the Rebbe, is Melech HaMashiach. He'll be the master of all the nations, Adain Kalam. V'hu yechiach lahem, and he will rebuke them. V'yemer lemi sheyimta b'ya'al yasher amavis, to straighten out their crooked ways. And because of that, there's not going to be war. Ben am la'am, ben nation and nation. Kihu yashlam b'dim, he will make peace between them. There'll no longer need for weapons of war. They'll repurpose them to be used for vessels for the ground, for agriculture. In the end of days, all the nations will come to him, and many nations will follow. They will say, let's go up, will go up to the mountain of Hashem base, like Yaakov, to the house of the God of Yaakov. He will teach us, show us from his ways. We'll follow in his path. Because from Tzia and Zion it goes out Torah with Dvar Hashem and the word of Hashem in Yerushalayim. The Hamayda says that who is the Mayda, who's Melech? He is Melech HaMoshiach. And about him says V'Shavat. So this is the introduction that Rebbe gives, that who is the one who makes all this happen? It's Melech HaMoshiach himself. Then the Rebbe continues with Keva and Sin Shabiyam Yamim Elu, in these days, Machlitim, they have decided, Machlitim, they are announcing. Who is announcing? Rosh Medina, the heads of the countries, Bailam in the world, Alvar Timtum, Ubita Klinashek, about the contraction, the lessening, and getting rid of weapons. But and adding Binyanim Adoration Lakiyam Kalkala, things that are needed for agriculture, for feeding the Medina, sustaining and feeding the country of Ba'ilam Kula, the entire world. Says the Rebbe, which this is this is the same Teichen of what is the prophecy that they will beat their swords into plowshares. Shvidas Kliyam L'cham, the breaking of these weapons of war, allows them Kalim to make from them vessels, Lavedis Dam, to work the ground. Eretz Menayet Lechem, the ground from which food comes from, bread comes from. He's a simon bar. This is a clear sign. Alas Cholas Kiyume Shal Yodza, the beginning of the fulfillment of this prophecy. Geulah Mitzvah Shlema, the Mishkena, which will be fulfilled fully with the Geulah Mitzvah Shlema. So, and here the Rebbe says, the key phrase here, more explanation, says the Rebbe, we're holding by the Hechtat site, the highest, it's high time, shall be of the coming of Melech HaMoshiach. Hine zeh Melech HaMoshiach, Moshiach is coming. Reim Kfar, we see already, Vaschalas, Me'ein Vaschalas, a glimmer, and already the beginning of the effect of Melech HaMoshiach al-Amim. Again, he will judge between the nations, etc. So the Rebbe is saying here, this is, we see the effect of Melech HaMoshiach on the nations. That means there's a person, individual, who goes by the title, if he has a name tag, hello, my name is Melech HaMoshiach, and if he sends you an email on the bottom, on his title card, it will say, Nasidirenu, in charge of Agog, president of the Melech HaMoshiach. That's his title, and in this capacity of Melech HaMoshiach, he is changing the world and affecting them. He's fulfilled. We're seeing the beginning of this prophecy of his being fulfilled, of beating the swords into plowshares.
We also had this notion. I think Rabbi Manis Friedman mentioned it, of that the Rebbe could be Bechezkas Moshiach, and still we don't say Melech HaMoshiach, but we see in the Rambam brings about Ben Kuziva that Bar Kochba was, the Chachamim, they thought that he was Mashiach because he was waging wars. And it says, Rabbi Akiva
said that he is Melech HaMoshiach.
Right, and V'dima hu v'chol chachmei adoyrei shehu Melech HaMoshiach. They all thought that he was Melech HaMoshiach.
They didn't think that he was Mashiach without it. No, they thought he was Melech HaMoshiach. They thought he was the
Correct.
Man. They thought I guess you could say it means they thought he was going to be Mashiach, but the point is that we don't find this distinction of Mashiach, Melech HaMoshiach. This is not a...
Correct. And Melech HaMoshiach can be said even on Cheskas Mashiach, as long as you see someone that is fulfilling those things, and the Rebbe, meaning if you just had the Rambam, if you were just going based on raw Rambam, as long as there's a person that is fulfilling even only one of the things of Yilcham Hashem, that he's fighting the wars of Hashem, you're still, like Rabbi Akiva, have the ability. And I think the lesson that we take from Rabbi Akiva is that this is how you should behave towards someone that you see that this is a nice Kelev, and Omer Allah Sheu Melech HaMoshiach. This person is Melech HaMoshiach. So even if you don't have Yechi, even if you don't have Mishpatim Nun Beis, even if you don't have all these things, we still have the precedent to call the Rebbe Melech HaMoshiach.
Yeah, and all this also answers the next claim that he said, Rabbi Friedman said, the Rebbe talks about Mashiach, he's talking about your personal Mashiach. So we see, but the roof of the Beis Hamikdash, that was brought before from Chaisar and Beis, the Shlach and about Tishlach, all these things is clearly not talking about a personal Moshiach. The Rebbe is talking about the actual Moshiach, as we mentioned. The next claim was that the only way to know who Moshiach is if he does things. Rabbi Friedman said, we don't care what he says. He doesn't care if he tells you he's Moshiach. We only care if we look what the Rambam says. We follow the criteria laid out in the Rambam. Then he's Bechezkas Moshiach. Then he's Moshiach Bavadai. When the build the Beis Hamikdash and take the Gibbetz Galus, we'll know he's Moshiach. We don't care what he has to say. That's not how we know who Moshiach is. So that is obviously oversimplifying the matter. The Rambam is talking about the halachic significant. When is he halachically considered to be Bechezkas Moshiach, and when is he halachically considered to be Moshiach Vadai? And that's correct. The Rambam is the one who that's how he paskin. But if your Rebbe tells you that he's Moshiach, unless you think Chas v'shalom, your Rebbe is telling you an untruth, then I don't see why you wouldn't believe him. Or as the expression goes, the Rebbe is perhaps not Moshiach Vadai, but he is Vadai Moshiach. He doesn't have the criteria of being a technical certain Moshiach, but he is also certainly going to be Moshiach. And for sure, the Rebbe is already and what for sure, the Rebbe is already Bechezkas Moshiach. And there's no reason to. We don't have to resort to him being a personal Moshiach. That's simply not. Okay. And I think the last thing we're talking about here is that we brought. I mentioned at the end of the episode. It wasn't directly related to everything else, but I mentioned it that the Shemais. Tavshin Beis, the Rebbe says that we already have the Geulah, that Hashem should open our eyes. We should see that we have the Geulah, and there was a proof there also that the Rebbe is already Bechezkas Moshiach. Let's go through those. The Rebbe says, "Much Geret Mered Amal, Divrei Chak Machad." The words we spoke many times, the words that Friedrich Rebbe and the Siderenu, that in addition as Neisef of them, what's the Shein Kolo Kolo Kitzin, that we've already completed all of the end dates. Haben euch Shein Yidden Shein Shuva getan. The Yidden have already done Shuva. Hat Shein Altverendig, we have completed everything. Kayla euch, including also to put in the Kneplach to polish the buttons, have also been completed. Darfner haben, we need to only have as the Eberster soll auföffnen the Eigen for the Yidden, that Hashem should open up the eyes of the Jews. They should see wie es schön dort the Geulah mit der Shleme. We should see how it already is the full and complete redemption. We said shame by them Shulchan Aruch. We already sit at the set table, the Sudas Leviasim with the meal of the Leviasim Sharabar, etc., etc. And then at the end of the Simcha, the Rebbe says, "V'hiratz and may it be Hashem's will." As durch them through that etzem achlata, whatever, through the very making the achlata, the very mizalman tekef miyad, we should immediately become them schar. We should get the reward already. The rekiyam bepayil from the divrei Rambam Masiyim Sifri, the actual fulfillment and actuality of the words of the Rambam at the end of his book. As la'achlev es mahat shein the Melech mebeis David. And after we already have, and here the Rebbe quotes from the Rambam, the Melech from the house of David, who is versed in Torah va'isik b'mitzvahs k'David Aviv, and he does mitzvahs like his father David. V'yachav kol yisol lelichban, he will compel all the Jews to follow it. L'chazik bitken, to fix his breaches, to strengthen his breaches. V'yilcham cham Hashem, and he will fight the wars of Hashem. End quote from the Rambam. Vos ed is Bechezkas, quote, Vos ed is, says the Rebbe, that he is Bechezkas Shu Mashiach. That's again a quote from the Rambam, that he is, like the Rambam says, Bechezkas Shu Mashiach. Says the Rabbi, here that this person that we have already is already Bechezkas Moshiach. Zol shoin gleich werden Moshiach Bevadai. He should already soon become Moshiach Bevadai durch dem was and here the Rabbi quotes the Rambam through this that he will do. Also v'yitzliach, he does that and he's successful. The Bana Beis Hamikdash became, he will build a Beis Hamikdash in its place. The Kabetz Nidch Yisrael, and he will do Gibbetz Galus. V'yisaken es ha'olam kula lavet to Hashem b'yachad, and he will fix up the entire world to serve Hashem together. So the Rebbe says in short. And then after we have somebody who's already Bechezkas Moshiach, he should very soon become Moshiach Vadai. You see it clearly that Rebbe is saying that we already have, there is already somebody who's Bechezkas Moshiach. And he can be called the Melech HaMoshiach, or whatever you want to call him. He's considered to be Moshiach. So, yes, I hope you guys enjoyed. And here's some source material, some food for thought, or hopefully even better food for action. And we're recording this episode right before Yud Shvat. So we should already be celebrating Yud Shvat together with the Rebbe Melech HaMoshiach, B'mhediv Yameinu, Mamash. We want Mashiach now.
ועד כדי כך המדבר גולהום der עם soll nachri sein, Yechi HaMelech.